Is Russia trying to win its war against Ukraine by spreading propaganda? Is the Kremlin secretly funding a disinformation campaign? Well, the United States believes it is. Washington, in fact, has accused the Kremlin of spreading disinformation in Latin America in order to serve that purpose. And which are the countries being targeted? Well, the US has put together a long list. It includes Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, Venezuela, Brazil, Ecuador, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, among other countries. What exactly does Russia want to achieve through this covert campaign is the question. Well, according to the US State Department, the Kremlin wants to undermine support for Ukraine and propagate anti-US and anti-NATO sentiments. And it wants to do that in a way that seems organic. That is how propaganda works. So how exactly would the Kremlin achieve that? There are the mechanics, these are the mechanics of the alleged campaign. A cultivated group of editorial staff would be organized in a Latin American country, most likely in Chile, and this group would be joined by several local journalists and public opinion leaders. A team in Russia would meanwhile then create content and send the material across to the editorial staff in Latin America. And the so-called editors would review and edit it. They would ultimately publish the content in local mass media. Influencers would then help spread this manipulated content. You see, the entire purpose of having Latin American staff is to localize the pro-Kremlin content so that the audience finds it organic and also believable. And who is driving this extensive disinformation campaign is the question. 3 Russian organizations, allegedly. I have the names for you. The Social Design Agency, the Institute for Internet Development, and Structura. In fact, the US has labeled these organizations as influence for hire firms. It says it is colluding with local media and influencers in Latin America, and this is not the first time these firms have come under scrutiny. Back in July, the European Union also imposed sanctions on the SDA and Structura. It accused them of spreading propaganda supporting Russia's war against Ukraine. And it's not only these organizations. The US says the Russian embassies in Latin American countries are also in on this campaign. You see, not a lot is happening on the battleground. Ukraine's counteroffensive has more or less failed. The war appears to have reached a stalemate. And President Volodymyr Zelensky is trying to win an EU membership. Ukraine seems to be more focused on politics than the battlefield. And as for Russia, is a disinformation campaign in South America the latest weapon in its arsenal? The Russian embassy has called the US allegations unfounded. It says the US is losing popularity in the region, so it is once again interfering in the internal politics of independent states. Late in October, the US released a declassified intelligence assessment. It was sent to more than 100 governments. And what was in that report, you ask? It said that Moscow is using spies, social media, and Russian state-run media to erode public faith in democratic elections. And only a few weeks on, America has again accused Russia of foul play. Is the Kremlin really trying to win the war through propaganda now? WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.